Oliver Hayes had lived the same way for 40 years. At 6 a.m. sharp, he woke up. At 6:30, he brewed black coffee, strong and bitter, just like his life had become. At 7, he sat by his window, reading the newspaper, circling grammatical mistakes out of habit. An editor's instinct never dies, even after retirement. But this morning was different. Today, as he cleaned out an old desk drawer, his hands froze. A yellowed, creased envelope stared back at him. He pulled it out, feeling his breath hitch. The handwriting on the front was his own. But the letter was unfinished. The date, 35 years ago. And the name? Margaret Walker. Margaret. A name that once meant everything. Now, it was just a ghost from a life he had long buried. She had been his best friend, his greatest love, and his biggest regret. They had met in college, both ambitious but wildly different. Margaret was a dreamer, always talking about traveling the world, writing novels, and living a life without regrets. Oliver, he was practical, stable, a man who believed in security over passion. Then came the job offer. A big publishing house in another city wanted Margaret, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She had begged him to come with her.
Let's go together,
She had said, her eyes full of hope.
we can build something new, take a chance, Oliver.
I can't just leave. My job is here. My life is here. Margaret had given him a sad smile.
Then at least write to me, don't forget me.
He had promised. And he had tried. The letter in his hands was proof. But something stopped him. Doubt, fear, pride. He never sent it. And eventually, Margaret stopped waiting. She moved on. And now, 35 years later, he had no idea where she was. Or if she was even alive. Oliver read the unfinished letter, his fingers tracing the faded ink. The words he had written were apologies, promises. But they were meaningless now. He had waited too long. Or had he? His heart pounded. Maybe, just maybe, he could find her. Before it was too late. That night, for the first time in decades, Oliver did something reckless. He packed a small suitcase. And bought a one-way train ticket to the city Margaret had moved to all those years ago. For the first time in his life, Oliver was chasing uncertainty. The city was nothing like he remembered. The cobbled streets and small cafes were gone, replaced by skyscrapers, neon signs, and endless traffic. But Oliver wasn't here to sightsee. He had one goal. To find Margaret. He started with the publishing house where she had worked. But it was gone, replaced by a tech startup. He asked around. No one remembered her. His next stop was the university library where she had spent countless hours studying. He asked an old librarian. She frowned, scanning the records.
Margaret Walker? Yes. She studied here, but that was a long time ago.
Oliver's heart sank. Just as he was about to leave, a man spoke up. Margaret Walker. The voice belonged to an elderly professor, his face full of nostalgia. I remember her. She wanted to open a bookstore. There's one across town, the little chapter. She used to dream about running a place like that. Try there. Hope flickered. Oliver hurried to the bookstore. The moment he stepped inside, he felt it. A place untouched by time. Bookshelves lined the walls, their spines worn from years of eager hands flipping through pages. And behind the counter stood a woman. Her hair, once jet black, was now streaked with silver. But her eyes were the same. Soft. Kind. Full of unspoken words. She looked up. Their eyes met. And time froze. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, barely above a whisper.
Oliver?
Oliver's throat tightened. He pulled out the letter, the one he had never sent. Margaret took it, her hands trembling as she unfolded the fragile paper. Her eyes moved over the words he had written decades ago. She looked up, tears glistening.
It took you 35 years to finish this letter?
Oliver exhaled shakily. No, it took me 35 years to have the courage to give it to you. Margaret let out a soft laugh, half amusement, half sadness. Then, she reached behind the counter and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside were dozens of letters. All addressed to him. Unsent. Unread. She had written to him for years. But after never hearing back, she had finally stopped. Oliver's heart broke. Not because of what was lost, but because of what could have been. Margaret closed the letter and sighed.
So, or what now?
Oliver took a deep breath. For the first time in his life, he didn't hesitate. I don't know how much time we have left, Margaret, but I do know one thing, this time, I won't leave my words unsaid. Margaret smiled. And this time, Oliver didn't wait. He reached across the counter and took her hand. For 35 years, he had waited for the right moment. But now, he realized, the right moment is whenever you choose to take it. If this story moved you, don't let your words remain unsaid. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories that stay with you long after the video ends. Your next favorite story is just one click away.